10 Elemental deleted scenes you never got to see. Elemental would have changed completely if they just had added one of these deleted scenes. Ember would have been too scary, or the elements could have had children even if they were from different elements. So without further ado, why don't we all just see all the deleted scenes from Elemental that you never thought existed. Let's go. So the scene when Ember and Wade go to the movies and do other activities together was one of the best we saw in the entire movie. But the reality is that this scene was modified many times. The original idea was not for Ember and Wade to just go to the movies that way, but for something much more romantic, of course. Wade would be in front of the movie theater waiting for Ember with a huge bouquet of flowers. Then the two of them would walk together to the park, climb trees, and spend a long time talking about what they liked the most, apart from meeting each other and watching the sunrise. This amazing scene would have been too cool, but at the same time, it would have been too cheesy. And speaking of cinema, there was a scene that many perhaps expected to see in the film, but didn't actually make it in the film. And it's about Ember and Wade sitting in the movie theater together, and each one has their own popcorn. Ember's popcorn are made of fire, and Wade's popcorn are made of ice. But Wade comes up with the greatest idea to eat Ember's popcorn, which was really a bad idea in the end. And he ends up putting all the ice cubes in his mouth, but we didn't see this entire sequence in the film. We could see it in the trailer and also in some promotional campaigns and shorts, but we didn't actually end up seeing it in the final version of the movie. And to be honest, it would have been really fun to see it in the final film. And do you guys remember what I told you about Ember, that she could be very, very scary? Since we're talking about a film that took no more and no less than 7 years to complete, all the main characters had great changes. In the first design they released of Ember, she had a serious and narrower face, and her eyes were larger and rounder. But when they got to the final design, they realized that she looked a bit too scary for children, so they had to reshape her entire face, making it more rounded and giving her more slanted eyes, giving it a more appealing look for children. This was left for the final design in the movie. In addition, she also had a few changes in her wardrobe, since in the movie we see her wearing a dress, but at first the designers had thought of adding some shorts to help define the shape of her legs, but the idea was not approved by the board, and in the end they kept the dress. In the final part of Elemental, we see that elements cannot mix with each other and can only form families with elements of their own class. But apart from Ember and Wade, we also see Claude in the movie, who seems to show great interest in Ember and does everything possible to show his love for the fiery girl. So it's very clear in the movie that elements do not mix with each other under any circumstance. But the original idea was completely different from what we saw in the movie. Well, this is mainly because they wanted to show different elements getting married and starting families with each other. In this conceptual art, we can see the different types of elements getting married and having children. And by the way, this is official. This is not a fan art. This is actual official material from the studio. Since the artists developed all of these characters to be used in the final film, within all of these characters, we can see a couple made up of a water man and an air woman, who also have two small children, an aqua girl and an air boy. And if we continue looking, we realize that there is also another couple made out of a water man and an earth woman, who also have two water children who seem to be mixed with earth. It would have been a great idea to live this concept, to be honest, because in my opinion, the final movie had a problem. By having the elements not being able to mix with each other, it limited the plot, and it made it very repetitive in some senses. It would have been really good to see the representation of diversity in the movie. Be honest, would you have liked to see families of different elements? What do you think? Although if they had done this, the main idea that we see presented in the final film wouldn't have made that much sense, to be honest. And if she had many changes in her design, it was obvious that Wade would also have them too, because at the end of the day, he's also one of the main characters. So for this reason, several ideas, but not only one was chosen. And although they seem to be very simple characters, the designers declared that Wade's character was one of the most complex and difficult to create. Yes, it may sound incredible, but that's actually what happened. The main idea was that Wade was going to be represented as water, not as a character that was simply wet. So the artist had to take into account even physics concepts like refraction and reflection, just like we see in the real life water. The main objective of this was to make it look like water, not glass, which is also also transparent. Therefore, we see that Wade could have had a wetter appearance in the previous versions. It seemed like he was constantly dripping and his nose was more pointy. Another version of this can be seen on a cover of a Pixar's book with the initial conceptual art, where Wade would have white hair, more prominent and in a different shape, and that's how they came to the final design, in which his face is more rounded and his hair has a small tuft. And they actually did an excellent job with this art because it's simply amazing. I would have liked to see this version of Wade too, to be honest. But one of the most notable differences within the entire film is how Wade and Ember met. I'm sure this was one of the scenes that many of us expected because we saw it in the trailer and we thought it was going to be in the movie, as with any trailer. Well, in the movie, Ember and Wade meet on the subway. Just when Ember drops her headphones and Wade picks them up, a small drop of water falls in Ember's hand and she feels a little pain, and then they look into each other's eyes. And oh boy, love at first sight. And from there, the whole story that we already know would begin. But in the movie, it is completely different since they are in the basement of the store where there is some kind of flood in Ember's store, and Wade literally comes through the pipe and appears in Ember's store. And also in the film, Ember showed us her great talents for creating objects with superheated glass. And in fact, they showed us a great scene in which Ember showed us her great talent. Well, in it, Ember was sitting at a desk that seemed to be a classroom. She was molding a bubble, which was probably overheated glass. But in this scene, she was not doing it very well because she starts to get frustrated and angry because whatever she's doing, she's not doing it well. So she ends up throwing away what she's doing, leaving it very angry. And this is how the rest of the story develops. The thing is, in the trailer we see something, and then in the movie we see something completely different. I myself really expected to see the scene we saw in the trailer in the movie, but it didn't make it in. And don't you think it would have been great if Ember and Wade had a child? And although this is just a fan art made by a great fan, it turned out to be very spectacular. In this one, we see that Wade and Ember have a son, and it would have gone very well with the idea that Pixar had about combining elements. Although the truth is that the director said that they were planning to do a scene like this for the end of the credits, but they decided not to risk it because they didn't know if the film would be a great success. And here we see the son of Wade and Ember, and he's made out of air. Why is he made out of air? Well, because if you combine fire and water, you get air. And finally, we find a scene that was deleted, which involved the waterman, Wade, and the place where he works. In the movie, it was understood that he's some kind of municipal inspector, and it is one of the reasons why Ember's father doesn't actually like him at all, because he's the one running the shop. But in the scene that didn't appear in the movie is one where we have Wade arriving to a place through the pipes, but in a different way as to the way we see in the movie, in the scene where Wade comes out of the pipes and he meets Ember, and that's where the story begins. In this one, we see how Wade arrives in parts and does not come out completely from the pipes. Very interesting deleted scene that you probably didn't see, guys. So tell me, guys, what deleted scene did you like the most? And well, my guys, that's all the dose of DJ there is for today. I really hope you guys liked this video and liked all of these elemental deleted scenes that you never got to see. I really want to know what kind of deleted scene you liked the most and you found more interesting, because it's a very interesting topic. If you liked the video, guys, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one, my guys. Peace!